Hey, what's up, guys? Benjamin Spak here. So today, I'm just going to do a short segment of Watch Me Work. Basically, just kind of want to show my workflow and process, not only for other viewers, but also for myself, just to in the future, if I forget how to do this, I'll be able to remind myself the workflow and just the general process. So to get started off, as you can see, we've already created a database for this, or excuse me, a table for this. Right now, I haven't really gone through and changed out the data types necessary. So it is just going to be very simplistic. I'll have to go through on another iteration and make sure that these data types are what I want them to be. But for now, I have a primary key set with the int, and everything else is pretty much just set to miscellaneous characters. So let me go ahead and close that out. I do have an example of an insert that I was already working on that is successfully operable. So got that over there. This is just a basic generated script based off of the events table. So what I did to achieve that is I just went and right-clicked on DBO or database object events, went to script table as, insert to, and then new query editor window, which will basically just create all of this for us. So what I'm doing is trying to make this look more like that. So the editing experience here in the SQL Server Management Studio is okay, but I mean, it's really not the best. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring this into Visual Studio Code. Excuse me. And as you can see, I already do have this pulled in. And now what I wanted to do is basically set it up to look more like this. So I'm going to be putting in a series of, I'm not exactly sure what you would call these. I would assume parameters, defining different parameters, setting up the test code. The insert and values should pretty much be the same, with the exception of, rather than using the auto-generated stuff here that isn't going to work, we're just going to reference it with these params that we have basically set up here. And anyway, without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and copy this over just to make life easier. Then that way I can close out of that. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and bring up VS Code. I'm just going to press Control V to paste it in. If you guys aren't familiar with Control C, Control V by now, I'm a little concerned for you, but hopefully I helped one person out there. Alrighty, so first things first, we're going to go ahead and move this beast over a little bit. I want it to be a little bit more organized. Okay. Not really what I'm looking for. Anyway. The idea is we're breaking that out, doing that. Okay. So anyway, just gonna slowly start chugging away on this. All right, so overall, we're going to want to make a proc for this. So let's start off with the proc. We're going to do alter proc. And let me actually double check. Okay, we don't have an events proc procedure. Alter. Okay, so instead of alter, we're going to want to create a proc. And we're going to want to call this proc based on our events DBO. So let's go to DBO events. And well, let's just go ahead and instantiate this proc and get it saved into SQL Management Studio. All right, so we've got it set. Let's do create proc as, let me see, begin, pardon the spelling. I can just do select one and then end. And hopefully this should instantiate the stored procedure for us. So I'm going to do Control N just to create a new query window. Going to execute this. Execute it. Was completed. All right, going to go to store procedures and just refresh real quick. All right, close out of that. Safe measure. I'm not going to save it. Now we're going to go to our newly stored procedure and modify it. DBO events underscore insert. Cool. Now this is more so what we're looking for. So let's go ahead and remove some of this auto-generated stuff. And I'm just going to copy and paste that right here. All right. So now it's starting to shape up a little bit like the one that we have over here. Let's see. What we're going to need to do is extract all of these fields. I'm going to try to select via values. So what I'm doing here is holding down Shift and just pressing the up arrow. You can also just click and select. Then I'm doing Shift-Alt-I to give me a cursor at the end of each line. I'm just going to hit the home key to bring me to the beginning, tabbing over 3, and then I'm holding down Shift-Control right arrow, and that's bringing me to select these titles here. So let me see. After the opening procedure, what I'm going to do is paste all these in. As you can see, I just did a one-for-one copy. Didn't want to, like cut them out or anything like that. But then it gives us the basic setup that we have over here. So for each one of these, again, Shift-Alt-I, then home once again. I'm going to put an @ symbol on, each one of those. And then I'm just going to go line by line and capitalize each one of these just to keep the naming convention and case similar to the other ones that I've set up. All right, so we've got slug, status ID, all that good stuff. One thing I don't see in here, I am going to want to define the ID as an output. Not 100% certain on why I need to do that way quite yet, but it'll come with practice and more research. All right, so same thing, selecting this again, multi-line select, Shift-Alt-I once again. Going to tab over a few, and let me see. I'm just spot checking to see if my cursor is at the same spot on all of these. It is not. Oh, okay. The discrepancy is because I have the brackets there for the values. And the values aren't ultimately going to be set up that way, so I'm just going to pull them out. They'll basically just be displayed like they were down there. You know what? Actually, as a matter of fact, let me remedy that. So I'm going to come in here, select all of these, with the exception of the ID, which will be set later. Let's see, I'm going to go into values and just paste that in. Tab these over a bit just to make it look a little bit more organized. And then after that, closing, I'm going to also copy in this as well. And it looks like all of this is actually going to need to go smack dab in the middle of begin and end. So let's do that now. Scope ID. All right, cool. Shaping up to look more and more similar. Still don't have our test code, and we're going to need to put limiters, or I guess requirements, on each one of these to be on the safe side. So what I was doing before, we can kind of come back to this. Multi-line select. Now that we have the closing paren, this should do the trick for us. All right, so I tabbed in 3, and now I'm holding down Shift Control left arrow, and that's bringing us over. I'm just doing a quick visual spot check here. Looks like everything is lining up the way that we need. Good stuff. Excuse me. So I'm going to select this again, multi-line select, space over. Now we're adding in the data requirements just as before. Going to put in a comma at the end of each line, then deselect the multi-line, come down to line 21. I'm just going to remove that trailing comma because that will cause issues for us. Now I'm going to put the test code above the, let's see, as, I'm not sure if you call it a statement or not. Just going to go ahead and copy over the execute of that. And of course, this one is events insert and not friends insert. So let's change that. Okay, now for our test code. For the test code, we're going to want to put that in some quotes. So let me do that to start off. And we'll go ahead and close out that quote. We want to do a declaration for just the ID for now. And again, this is just our test case. Then we're also going to want to establish a bunch of test data for each one of these fields. So let's go ahead and select all this good stuff. And I'm just going to go over to a blank window here to make our lives a little bit easier and to clean things up just a little bit. I'm going to do multi-line select and just remove the comma on the end of each one of these. Multi-line select once again. Alt-Shift I. All right, now we're going to do an assignment for each one of these. I'm also going to go to the beginning, select each one of these, and pull them out separately like so, and tab back over to, let's see, yeah, the execution part. I want to get that squared away as well. Test code. All right, so we got the declaration. We're still going to have to work on the additional declarations. Yeah, do that. Just wanted to put a space there. For now, I'm just going to put in that as a placeholder. So, excuse me, we know we need to add this in. All right. Replace the DBO name with the appropriate one. Then we're going to need, let's see, all of these fields. I can just copy over what we were doing with the ID there. Let's see, switch over to this chunk, and I can pull that out and put that in there. Good stuff. Gonna go to the end of each line and just add in a comma except for the last one. Just doing a quick compare and contrast. All right. Then we're just going to want it to display the newly created entry. Instead of friends, it'll be events. All right, we are shaping up here. That is set properly. That should be set properly. Cool. So now the only thing we really need to do is establish our test code, and we should be good. So let me go to this here. We no longer need that. So remove that from end there. What am I missing here? Here we go. All right, let's come back over here and assign some values. So metadata date time start. Honestly, I'm just going to keep this very simple. Excuse me. you know what? It doesn't have any sort of formatting right now. So I am literally just going to enter a string for each one of these. And, excuse me, they won't really be unique values, but that's okay. We're just testing to make sure that it goes in as intended. And I do see an issue with what I'm doing here. With the way that the current mock API that I'm using is set up, this does need to be set to active if I wanted to get it to display and come back. Now, there was one major issue that I saw here. These need to be single quotes instead of double quotes. I noticed I was running into some issues with that in the past. So I'm just going to bring this over so line wrap isn't doing its thing anymore. Just so I can take a look at it. I'm going to add a comma to each one except for the last. And copy it over, put it right into our placeholder here. There we go. Replace it. I didn't want to put it in the middle of those sets. Okay, so it looks like, excuse me, I apologize for the scratchy throat today. Okay, so we don't need the friends insert. Go ahead and copy everything we just created here. This is our events insert. So let me see, I could probably override everything. Cool. Let me execute that. When I execute it, it should save it. We are getting an error though, so let's see what this says. I apologize, my eyesight's bad, so I'm getting close. Let's see. Procedure events insert line 87. All right, so let's go down to 87 and see what's going on here. 87. Status ID. Incorrect syntax near. Oh, and you know what? It's because we don't have commas in those values. That will make a significant difference for us. So let me go ahead and fix that real quick. Multi-line select, Alt-Shift-I, press end. Cool. And, oh yeah, that's saving that. Let's go ahead and copy that again, pasting it in, execute once again. Cool. And it was completed successfully. So it is now saved. Since we're working on the events stored proc, I always like to close things out. Not going to save it, and I'm just going to try to, excuse me, come back here and modify. So right click, second from the top option, modify. Apologize, there's a little bit of lag here. Just waiting for this to pull up for us. Alrighty, and we're doing decent on time, under 20 minutes. Cool. So it looks like we have everything pulled up here, and we haven't entered in this test case yet. So what we want to do, just to verify that everything's going to work for us, is select this. Things that are in comments will still run, even as long as they're selected. So we're just going to execute that, and we should come back with a database, or excuse me, a table entry momentarily. This beast is hanging. Really does like to take its time and kind of freeze up. All right, so we got an error. A timeout period. Interesting. Could be an issue with how we set stuff up. You know what? I'm just going to try to execute again. I'll see if it wasn't just the program. Okay, cool. So it was the program. As you can see, it did execute for us. We just created one new entity. This is all of the blah, blah, blah dummy text that we put in. Then as you can see at the end, status ID is set to active. But anyway, that's pretty much it. That's one of the stored procedures that I have to do. One of the inserts, I should say. Probably have, let me see, like 3 or so more inserts that I have to do based off of these tables that I created yesterday. And then I'll also have to go through and do the other CRUD operations. If you're not familiar with the term CRUD, CRUD is create, read, update, destroy. So insert is basically the same thing as create. We're creating an entry in the database table, but we're also going to need to be able to update it, remove it, basically get rid of it, that sort of thing. So still plenty of more work to be done, but hopefully this kind of laid out the process for you, at least on what I've been learning with setting up stored procedures on SQL and Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to look up any info and try to answer those questions as best as possible. Again, I'm by no means an expert on this. This is, excuse me, new tooling for me. And just wanted to record this video not only to possibly help a few people, but to remind myself how to do this in the future. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Again, this is Ben Spak. Hope you have a great day.